Hello and welcome to another episode of Breaking Through in Cybersecurity Marketing. I'm one of your hosts, Gianna Whitver, here with my terrible co-host.
Hey, that's a change. All right, Gianna, keeping it interesting. I'm Maria Velasquez.
And we are so excited to have a not in my you guys know that my co-host is the best co-host in the world. It's not terrible at all. It's all
Love you
just
back. Love you
thank
back.
you. Okay, good. Everyone here knows I don't want hate mail. So, and we have an amazing guest on today. So excited. He is the head of brand at a really cool browser security company, Island. You've known it, you've seen it, you love it. We have Ari Yablok. We are so excited to have you on today, Ari.
I'm so happy to be here. Glad that we can make this happen.
Yeah, only like 10 months after our first call. So
Long time coming. Exactly.
So Ari, to jump right into this, because I think we want to hear your story and how you got to Island, and to hear about some of this like brand magic that you've put into the Island brand. Island exploded on the scene, what, like 2 years ago, I think?
Yeah, we're coming up. We passed 2 years since we've been live, and I've been around for almost 3 years at Island.
That's so cool. So you brought it out of stealth, and Island kind of exploded on the scene as a really cool company that got a lot of eyeballs. And I think a lot of it had to do with the brand that you built. Can you share your story of how you got to Island, how you joined the team, and then maybe some of those building blocks you started putting together so that when leaving stealth, Island came out with a bang?
Absolutely. So I encountered Island when I was working as head of brand messaging for a B2B tech startup agency, branding agency called Atreo. And there I would do strategic storytelling and end-to-end messaging and category naming and even company naming, and all sorts of other things, sales decks, investor decks, movie scripts, things like that. And I got a text one night from my boss saying, "You're about to have the coolest project in your career." And it was to name a company that was founded by two celebrities in the cybersecurity space, Mike Fay and Dan Amiga. And they were building this new thing called an enterprise browser. It wasn't called that at the time because it didn't have much names to it yet. But in that initial call that I had with them, learning about what this thing was, my mind was blown. And I had done 50 plus brand positioning and brand storytelling at that point. I had seen a lot, and when I heard this story, it was just different. And honestly, one of the first names that came to my mind was Island, and I'll explain why. And I offered that name among some other names, and it was kind of an instant alignment that that was the right name for this company. And I said to myself at that time, if I would leave this job to build a brand from scratch for something that is incredibly important and is really the future of work, this would be the ideal brand to go build. And one thing led to another after naming the company. And I became the head of brand around 9 months before we even left stealth as the first marketing hire for Island.
That's really cool. So just nailing the name from the first try must have felt like, oh, this is easy. Like throw something else at me. What else is out there? What else needs a name? I'll do it in one shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really was because, sometimes you have an idea for a startup and you need to think how to market it so it looks big and it feels special, and you kind of overdo it on a marketing side in a way to kind of give it the attention that maybe it doesn't deserve yet. And this was the opposite. This was an idea that was so fundamentally game changing that I needed to think, how do I do it justice? How do I give the product the proper respect in the market that it deserves by telling the story right? And that started with the name. This was going to be a solution that solved a lot of things that were just not quite right about enterprise work. We had been, just to give you a quick pitch of the story, work has, for a while now, already been happening primarily on the web. And that means it's been done primarily on a browser, which means the center of the enterprise workspace is a browser that was never designed for enterprise work. It was designed to do all sorts of awesome online stuff, but the minute you want to think about what you need to do to make that work for an enterprise environment, you start thinking of, you start adding agents and proxies and gateways and monitoring and all sorts of things that you have to pack around this browser to kind of make it behave like an enterprise platform, when it was never really designed for that in the first place. And the simple question was, what if you could design the browser to be an enterprise workspace from the start? You could put all of those tools, those core needs that involve security, IT, productivity, you bring them together into the place where people are working so that the browser behaves naturally the way it is supposed to behave in the workplace. So it is, instead of building walls around work, you are putting work in the environment where it is naturally safe and enabled by design. And to me, that was an island where you are free to do your work in peace. You are not interrupted or disrupted by anything. You are not in need of building walls, and yet you're naturally safe and protected. And it was kind of, everything kind of, moved forward from there.
That's awesome. Why do I envision like a pirate theme for some sort of campaign for you? Like you're on this safe island that pirates cannot touch. Let me know if I'm way off.
We do have a rule: no palm trees allowed in our brand, because we want island to be a metaphor and not to be taken literally. Otherwise, it's kind of like a trip to Jamaica vibe, and we want to stay away from that vibe.
I was literally going to say, like, is this a long con to just drink a lot of pina coladas, like islands?
It did give us a few good excuses of where to go on an offsite. So that was a good start. Yeah.
There you go. I do have to say, the way you were talking about the whole process and how you got to the name or the brand or the direction, it's really refreshing because I could feel like there's passion, integrity in the process, and how much you really were eating, sleeping, breathing this story to come up with something like this. I love that. That's pretty inspirational.
Yeah, and I need to give a lot of credit to those co-founders whose names I called out in the beginning, Mike Fay and Dan Amiga. The brand in general is not something that is seen as a priority one necessarily in the cybersecurity space. You're seeing it a little more now, but it's really been on a long journey to get there. And they understood that for this to be as important as they envisioned it, it needed to feel important intrinsically. It needed to be authentically so that you would understand it just by experiencing it. And again, to hire a brand marketer, a brand guy, 9 months before exiting Stealth as the first marketing hire was a testament to that commitment to showing up in the right way, to giving people the feeling of something really different and really special was here before they even read a single word of a white paper or anything like that. And that's been really our North Star when it came to brand the entire time.
Tell us a little bit more in detail about the launch, because not many of us have the opportunity to launch out of Stealth. Usually there's a security company that exists. It's not in Stealth, it exists. Maybe it has no marketing team, right? And then you join and you might be the first marketing hire, but you're not usually there at the beginning or the pre-beginning. You're not usually there. You're not typically, like you said, brand has had a long journey and it's kind of an afterthought to, great, now we have a company. Let's install some brand into this. So tell us, how did you prepare for the launch? What sort of assets did you launch with? Like, what was really important? I assume website, but like what else?
Yeah, so it did show up with the website launching that day, obviously, but the stuff underneath the surface was really kind of the reason why our launch was so successful that day. We spent months not marketing people, because again, I was the marketing people, me and another marketing ops person who were in there early, kind of building the infrastructure. But it was the executive team that were having the discussions of what is the category we're going to build? What is the narrative we're going to tell everywhere? What are the exact words of that narrative? Not just, give me your 60-second pitch, but let's write it down and let's get it very clear in our heads. Let's have our sales team practice it, and make it theirs, of course, but really make everyone feel like we are all telling the same story. What is our personality? We did a very brand-centered identity building exercise around how we are going to talk. For example, we are not going to mention competitors. We are not going to put down competitors, because we actually respect that they are the building blocks by which we were able to get to where we are today. We're not going to be forceful about seeing Island or buying it. One of the things I always love to talk about is the CTA that I came up with for the bottom of the homepage is, when you're ready, let's talk, which is the opposite of a CTA. It's like a call to think instead of a call to action. And that came from a decision we made as a brand personality of the sage. A sage, as opposed to a ruler, as opposed to a defender, is not being pushy, is simply enlightening and then getting out of the way. And that was an important part of our process. So in terms of the launch, we did all that work before launching. We did it in private so that when we launched, we would feel like, and this was again something we talked openly about inside the company, when we launched, we wanted the first day of Island being out to look like it was our 5th year, that it had all been mature, it had all been thought out and even iterated upon, so that when you saw it, it felt already well established. And there was a business decision made about that, because we were selling to CISOs, we were selling to the C-level people who were going to make decisions that were going to impact every employee in the company, the browser that you work on, right? This needed to be a decision that they felt really good about the browser they were going to use, and the brand was going to play a big, big role in that. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, even if it didn't, that was actually really cool to hear the process, because that makes sense. Stealth mode should be exactly that. It should be, reworking and massaging the messaging and the go-to market strategy and everything. That way, when you do launch, you look like a legit established company, not just throwing words on a website just to launch and then figuring things out later. And I don't think a lot of startups actually take that step that way.
Yeah, this was actually very unconventional when it comes to startups. I believe the typical feeling about stealth mode is leave it as soon as possible, because you can't learn what you want to learn when you're in stealth mode. You're not able to get the feedback you need from customers, from audience. You're not able to have open conversations, things like that. We saw stealth mode as a strategic advantage, where we were able to iron out very important decisions that we needed to feel committed to, following through on from day one. We were able to have very important high-level conversations in stealth with executives that didn't need our company to be public yet, to be, out in the open yet. So we were gathering much needed feedback. We were doing all that building. And to me, it almost felt like obvious when we were doing it. Like, of course, you use stealth mode to build the foundation of that brand, but it's not. Many companies feel like Series B is when you start thinking about brands, right? You have the budget, you go get some agency, you evolve, you graduate from your, Wix website, and you finally get your act together, right? Mm-hmm. But that couldn't work for us. And I think more and more companies that saw what we were doing realized, hey, they probably have something there.
Yeah, 2 comments here. So one, what you're saying about the importance of brand really resonates, because one of our very first episodes with Nimi Reichenberg, CMO at Simplify at the time, which got acquired by Google Security. he emphasized that he wished he had focused on brand. He could have invested more in brand earlier. And if he could do it again, that's what he would do. So I hear you there. And then, two, I think also with this Sage persona and all this investment you did, and I love how you said to look like you've been around for 5 years on your very first day. That's an element that creates trust too. Like all of us as security companies, vendors and services companies, we should, we are trying to partner with the security teams at companies to help them defend against attacks, defend against things, right? Like we need to be trustworthy. We need to imbue that sense of trust in them, especially a CISO. Because why would a CISO put, unless they're like one of these very innovative forward CISOs, a lot of CISOs are wary of this new technology that at companies that could go under also in 2 years and leave them high and dry.
Yeah, 100%. I think you most companies would exhaust their pool of early adopters very early on before they have enough to cross that chasm revenue wise. So I love that because then you're kind of like, 5 steps ahead, 5 years ahead, basically.
Yeah.
Did you find that, Ari?
What's that?
I was just asking a question because you're just about to answer. I said, did you find that true at Island, Ari?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would even say further that trust, I think like the way that we typically think of trust is like, I just need to tell them the things they need to know and then they'll trust me, right? If I show them that, obviously a really strong way of gaining trust is, customer case studies and statistics of ROI and things like that, where as soon as you can get that, go get it. But if you're just launching, if you're just starting, you probably don't have the logos you need. You probably don't have the stats you need yet. But what you can do is you could send all of those unwritten signals that everyone uses, whether they know it or not, to make a judgment about whether they can trust a company, trust a product, and even a person, right? You meet a person for the first time. You're not just listening to their words. Are they dressed properly? Are their mannerisms kind of weird, or are they sending a good vibe or not? There is no difference, and we shouldn't think of what we're doing here in cybersecurity marketing as any different than that, where someone's going to pick up on how smooth your website scrolls, on are your words easy to understand and yet still filled with substance, right? These are all signals not about what we're saying, but about how we're framing the experience of interacting with us that will go such a long way in bringing barriers down as you get through the buyer journey. There's just that many less hesitations when it comes to actually putting money on the table. And again, when we were asking people to take the browser that they've trusted their whole career and put it aside, at least at work, and choose a new one, we needed to give you all of those signals. And that's visual, that's textual, that's messaging, that's words you say, and that's words you choose not to say. It's all of that. And the more details you could go into, the more that foundation for trust will be there.
Oh, are you guys frozen? I
No,
felt like you were frozen
we're
for a
just
minute.
taking a deep pause to appreciate what Ari just said because it was like very profound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speechless.
Speechless, exactly. It's really cool. What sort of other things were on your like do not say, do not list? I'm curious.
Okay, so this one I love being open about because I think it's time we all come to terms with it in the cybersecurity marketing community. We had a do not say list when it came to brand messaging. This doesn't apply, by the way, to things like technical data sheets and things like that, but our brand storytelling and messaging. We did not want to be a cybersecurity company that presented threats and risk and then position ourselves as the one that removes it. And this was intrinsic to our story. Our story says that if work is in the proper environment by design, you are not at risk. If you place work in an environment where it is not going to easily be threatened, then you do not need to discuss threats. And the more we bring those classic cybersecurity terms into the discussion, the more we are telling you we're just like any other solution. And we could not do that. So we eliminated the words like threat and landscape and risk and attack. And even though those words were part of the discussion, we do have man in the middle protection, and we do have phishing attack protection. We have very sophisticated cybersecurity elements built into the browser. We talked about the browser in a completely different way so that you would understand that this wasn't just another stack of solutions, just reframed. This was a new way to approach the workspace. And what you don't say often goes very far in framing the conversation in a completely different light. That again sends that vibe of, oh, this is different, and I get it now. The best way that you see this, by the way, because we just talked about going to RSA, go to a trade show, go to a conference, and see how many booths will use the same 6 words, just rearranged in different bullet points.
Yeah.
And if you can take anything of value from that in the end, after you've seen it all and heard it all, we stay away from any of those bullet points on our booths. We give you an experience that says something new and different is happening here. You want to see it? Let's show you.
I'm curious about if you receive pushback from any, because I understand completely where you're coming from. I wonder if you got any pushback from even your buyers, because I'm envisioning this story, right? Hey, you're actually removing risk if you are using Island. I envision that being kind of like a jump, like a mass, like a huge leap from what the conversations that folks are having today, which is about reducing. We hear all over social media and from security buyers that they hate these like overarching words of like 100% and things like that. So how did you navigate that conversation, Ari? And how did you yeah, I'm just asking, how did you navigate that? I'm asking if it was tricky in any way.
There was we had to think very deliberately about how to position us versus the status quo, because even though we were a browser as a product, what we were doing was what a number of other solutions that were already in their stack were doing. So we weren't really positioning against Chrome or Edge. Chrome or Edge wasn't doing what this was doing. We were positioning against solutions that were already 10, 20 years in the market: network security, proxies, gateways, things that once work went online, kind of had to like do some patchwork to kind of make this make sense. And we were saying, no, there's a better way. So we could have said, hey, rip it all out. You don't need it. Get rid of it. It's unnecessary anymore. We did not. First of all, because it's not entirely true. There are always situations where you will need a more lockdown managed environment, things like that. But there were many cases where we were just saying, try it this way. Don't take anything out. Don't move. Don't let go of any signed contracts. Just try it here with your system. And the beauty of the browser, of the Island Enterprise browser, is you could just download it and install it. You don't need to like rip out your current solution and then put in something else, and it takes a team showing up on site for 3 days to kind of get it all worked out and integrated. Just download the browser and freaking sign in and see what it looks like and what happens. And what's cool is they came to us and say, wait, maybe I don't need this anymore. Maybe that whole approach is unnecessary. And we're like, hey, you said it, not us, right? And and we let them decide. And there is a point where we're going to probably say, you guys need to rethink your stack. That might happen. But we kind of like the idea of simply setting the table and letting them decide where this fits in best for them, because they have always seen where it fits. It's just a matter of where and how.
How has that category creation journey been? Are you guys, forgive me, is Enterprise Browser an official Gartner category, or how's it going? 2 years
so
in.
It is an official category. There's a report right now out on state of enterprise browsers, and we are definitely in there. It was something we decided not 8 months before leaving Stealth. At the time, there was no such thing on the market, at least in the sense of what an enterprise browser is now. If you would Google enterprise browser back in 2021, you would find a couple of legacy things that are not even on market. They're just there because they did some good SEO back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And when we showed up, we essentially took a very deliberate approach to how we were going to tell our story. We were going to tell a story of not Island, but the enterprise browser as a thing. And what's remarkable is now there are several other enterprise browsers. There are enterprise browser security solutions. Interesting what that is. There are even really big browsers that that have a corporate version of themselves that are now calling themselves a secure enterprise browser. Companies that are way larger and way more prominent, and that are now adopting that category. So we are very happy with how that's going. We are still very far away from there being kind of a mass adoption of this category in terms of everyone understanding what it is and where it fits in.
Mm-hmm.
But we are seeing little resistance. Again, it's usually the analysts that are saying, you don't tell us what a category is, we'll tell you what a category is. And then they fit us into 3 other things.
Right.
But they did not give us any resistance. And that was pretty remarkable.
Wow. That is remarkable.
Yeah.
Another moment of us being speechless.
Yeah, really cool. Lots of inspiration and learnings for others that are listening, for us that are probably going through the same thing. And but yeah, I love what you said about the time to value in terms of, hey, you can just download this and see the value within minutes. I think that's massive with a new product and with a new category in a growing startup, because CISOs do want to see what's under the hood and kind of take it for a ride. And this makes me think of like PLG and how a lot of security vendors and solutions out there are not able to do this because they have to like rip or add this to the security tech stack that needs massive implementation. So working at and growing up a product that's got very good time to value is definitely easier.
Check this out. There's a CISO that ran into us at an event called FSISAC for financial institutions, right? CISO of a bank, and we actually have the customer video on our site right now, who showed up, talked to one of our execs, was kind of enthralled by the idea, and at the booth we set him up with a POC.
Ooh.
That's how simple this was. They didn't leave the booth and they already had it up and running in their system so that they could go play around with it that night. And their team called us that night saying, we've been playing with it all night. We have questions, right? So to be able to do that without leaving the booth is just, that's a new thing. That's a brand new thing that just legacy solutions just couldn't, the math didn't work, right, to make something like that possible. And it's a testament. It's kind of a little indicator of how simple this new way is. It's pretty remarkable.
That's cool. I was going to say you're going to love and enjoy seeing that one-day sales cycle length in Salesforce.
I would say too that the work you did with the brand carried that too, because who wants to? I mean, a lot of people are interested in innovation, new things, right? But one must trust a software or a vendor or a company before downloading or using their product in such an intimate way on like a corporate network, especially, or a corporate environment, especially someone on the security team. So like the brand work you put in to show that this is a trusted product that's not, gonna be, that's built on sticks and stones, right? Really probably helped a lot too with that.
Yeah, and this is a really important point, because just as a general rule about brand should be doing multiple things. brands should be creating that high level awareness of here's our story, here's this thing that you didn't know was on the market, even an entire category. Now you know. And it would be bonus points if you actually love it too, right? Mm-hmm. But also, when you're in these tiny one-on-one experiences and you pull up the product or you pull up any sort of documentation or material, and the minute they see it, they're like, ooh, that's sharp. Ooh, that's clear. Ooh, there is something classy about it. That isn't a marketing moment. That isn't a, bring someone down the funnel moment. That is a moment where a hesitation that I had about something brand new that I've never heard of became delight, became, ooh, this is exciting now. And there's always two different roads, you can go on with something new. And for most cybersecurity execs, it's usually skepticism. It's usually, I've seen everything before. They've all said they're going to change the world, and it changes around 5% of one thing, right? And the brand is what allows them to say, okay, maybe they're onto something here, or maybe there's something new here. It lowers that skepticism to the point where they're open to hearing what this is about and learning what this is about, and sometimes that's all you need. And that little thing is a really big thing, and it doesn't show up in metrics. It does. You can't report it afterwards. When the quarter's over, but it goes such a long way in kind of making everything smoother. And those are the little things about brand that really kind of, if you get it, then you see why it needs to be everywhere, and if you don't, then you're kind of just trying to pull metrics and kind of prove your way the entire way, and it becomes a push-pull thing.
Yeah. And I feel like you have to be in the right environment for that to work, for metrics not to show up and be okay with it. And the right environment means a CEO or a founder or co-founders that truly believe in the power of brand. So they're not asking for those metrics, and it's not trickling down as pressure on the marketing team to just do things that actually they can show in metrics and actually pay attention to brand, which can be super powerful. But I love that. The stars do have to align, though, in order for that to work.
Yeah, at some point you're going to have to answer for yourself. So,
of course. Yeah,
it's true.
For sure.
But you do need someone to believe in you. Exactly.
In those 8, like just like Maria was saying, in the 8 months of stealth, when you spent all that effort and time on preparing, that is awesome that you had a team, like a leadership team that believed. Kudos to your executives for hiring you, Ari. And now I think we want to get to our game. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, Maria, you want to explain the game?
All right, Ari. So for each of our guests on our episodes, both Gianna and I take turns at guessing what you would be doing career-wise today if you weren't in cybersecurity marketing or B2B tech marketing. Sometimes we do really well and it's kind of creepy, but then sometimes we do miserably and we're way off. And it's a little bit of a competition. At the end of the year, we do the tally and see how many I've won and how many Gianna has won. So this year she's been doing well. So hopefully I can break that cycle.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay,
yeah, all right, I'm going to go
Let's
first. I'm jumping in. Ari, I think you would be a hotelier of a luxury line of hotels, like Kimpton's, like luxury hotels, like Four Seasons, but your own line. And the reason being is because it's like kind of cheating, but you have that user experience, small details, brain where you could be like, all the pieces together make the whole of the experience, and that matters. So that's what I think.
Okay. Ari, you give me this grounded type of vibe, calm, and I think that could work really well in an elementary school setting. So an educator dealing with young kids, I think you would have a lot of patience for that age group. So that's my guess. What do you think? And then you can tell us exactly what it is.
Yeah, first of all, I love the free psychoanalyst session here. This is great about.
Oh yeah, we don't tell you that. We're going to tell you like why.
It's not free, Ari. You're going to get an invoice right after.
You'll send me the bill. Yeah. Some nice truths in there. First of all, my father is an elementary school principal, so there's some education roots in me. The hotel thing I've never heard before. I never thought of. unfortunately, I don't think I could give anyone full credit because I would be a singer-songwriter musician. That's
Oh.
for sure what I would be doing. I played music since I was 8, and
Yeah, well,
even
that's
have
what I
some.
meant. A music teacher in an elementary school setting. No, I'm
There
kidding.
you go, music teacher.
You'd be Rafi.
I'd be the pianist in the hotel lobby. That's what I would be.
There you go.
Is that your instrument, Ari? Is it piano or guitar?
That's what I started with for a long time. That's still my kind of first love. But I play some guitar, some other stuff too. But yeah, that's my thing.
Will you send us some clips so we can weave them into this episode?
Will do. Yeah, two albums on Spotify with my buddies from college. I'll send it over.
Awesome.
Nice.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ari, for joining us on the show today. We know it's late where you are and really appreciate you taking the time. To our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Remember, there's a new episode that drops every Wednesday. Make sure you subscribe so you can get that alert and give us 5 and as many stars as you can and tell your colleagues in marketing about the show. And see you all next time. Thank you, Ari, again.
Appreciate it. This was fun, guys.
See ya.